Isn't it so true that your nose helps you remember so much? Certain smells remind us of a particular time in our life, and it's often the scents of the kitchen that make us all smile. Oh, and when my mother's marvelous meatloaf was cooking, there was something so comforting about that. Now when I cook this recipe in my own home, the aroma that fills my house just makes me smile. So that's why I want to share this with you. Before we start cooking, I have some fun food facts about meatloaf. It is a meal that helped to feed many people during the Great Depression because cooks learned to stretch the amount of meat they had by replacing some of them with breadcrumbs, so it's very cost efficient. Meatloaf is adapted from, any ideas? Meatballs. There's a group that's named after this meal, Meatloaf, and meatloaf is one of America's top comfort foods. Now here's what you're going to need for this meatloaf recipe. You're going to need 1 to 1.5 pounds of hamburger. You're going to need 1 egg, 3/4 cup oatmeal, 2 cans of tomato soup, and 1 can is for mixing, and then you're going to need about 1/2 to 3/4 cups of tomato soup to put on top as it's cooking. My mom would sometimes also add green peppers. She also at times would make her meatloaf with cream of mushroom soup instead of tomato soup, so you might want to try that also. And a person has also told me that in meatloaf, I kid you not, they've even tried 7-Up. There you go. Lots of ways you can do this. All right, first preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Next, you're going to take a big bowl and throw all the ingredients into this bowl. Now, once you have the hamburger in here, next you're going to put the soup. And I like to use a whole can of the soup. Now, if you like your meatloaf a little bit firmer, you want to use less soup, of course. So let's go ahead, pour that in, and you're going to want to mix this all together. Hopefully you can get this all done with a spoon, but at times toward the end, you might have to jump in there with your hands to make sure that everything is nice and combined. I think that looks pretty good. Next, you're going to want to add the egg. You know what, we're just going to throw everything else in here. So go ahead and add the egg, as so. Then you want to add your oatmeal, put that in. A lot of people, when they make this meatloaf, they oftentimes, they use the breadcrumbs. That's what they did in the beginning when meatloaf was to be made. My mom always used the oatmeal, and I really like it. It adds such a great texture. Adds once again, so it's nice, and it's not dry at all, this meatloaf. Nice and moist. Okay, look at that. That's all we do. Next, you want to take your standard loaf pan. You want to go ahead and make sure that it's ungreased. You don't need to grease this. Pour everything you have into the pan, as so. Then just go ahead and spread that around evenly, like this, so it's nice and even. Don't compact it too far down. I think we're looking pretty good with that. Then all you're going to do to finish everything out is you're going to take the 1/2 cup of tomato soup, pour that over. Once that's in, you also want to make sure that it's spread evenly around so it has nice evenness to it as it's cooking. All right, we are done. It is now time to actually put this meatloaf in the oven, and you want to make sure that you cook this for a good hour. And as you peek and make sure you see how things are cooking, make sure that all the way around it's completely bubbling, and make sure that it's cooked all the way through. You'll see it'll have a nice brown texture and look to it on top. Also, this is a great tip. This makes this even a bigger and better Meals in a Rush. If you want to cook this quicker, and also if you want to make individual servings, cook them in muffin tins. You just take the amount and put in each tin, and then you cook it up. So there we go. Done meatloaf, and it's time for me to taste test. My mom, when she would serve this meatloaf, it always was with a baked potato, some sort of potato. Green beans were always a must, and then of course you have to have your big slice of meatloaf. What else people love about meatloaf is making their sandwiches the day after. All right, I'm going to take a bite here. You enjoy the Meals in a Rush way. Also, I want to remind you, if you haven't checked out my website, mealsinarush.com, I invite you to do so. I have a lot of different recipes online. Also, for each recipe, you can watch me cook them too. It's pretty cool. I would love to hear from you. And if you have any cooking tips, I also like to hear about those. My email address is also found at mealsinarush.com. Okay, enough talking. It's time to eat. Enjoy the Meals in a Rush way. Perfect.